The University and the Idea of Culture, Chapter 5. Most projects for the university of the 21st century bear a striking resemblance to the university projects of the 19th century. The reason it is necessary to reread Humboldt, Schiller, Schleiermacher, Fichte, and Kant is that the vast majority of contemporary solutions to the crisis of the university are in fact no more than restatements of Humboldt or Newman, whose apparent aptness is the product of ignorance of these founding texts on the history of the institution. Okay. Find those. So we hear a great deal about the need to value both teaching and research, or the indirect utility of pure research, as if these were new ideas. These ideas were new once, and their recurrence is something that should probably earn sufficient respect to permit a rereading to be indulged, a rereading that I have begun in the previous chapter and will continue here by looking at Kant's successors. Humboldt, Schiller, Schleiermacher, Fichte, and Kant. And Newman. The achievement of the German idealists is a truly remarkable one. To have achieved the achievement of the German idealists is a truly remarkable one. To have articulated and instituted an analysis of knowledge and its social function on the basis of an aporia in Kantian philosophy, they deduced not only the modern university, but also the German nation, the dialectic of permanent knowledge and the historical tradition identified by Schelling and resolved by Schiller through the meditation of aesthetic ideology, brought about an articulation of the ethnic nation, a rational state, and philosophical culture, which linked speculative philosophy to the reason of history itself for almost 2 centuries of imperial expansion. Schiller's famous critique of Kant acknowledges the capacity of reason to exalt man to the level of the universal. Schiller's famous critique of Kant acknowledges the capacity of reason to exalt man to the level of the universal. Reason, according to Schiller, centers the subject as autonomous, capable of reflecting upon a world of determinations from which it is liberated as a pure point of consciousness. For Schiller, man is indeed emancipated by reason, but he claims that Kant's non-empirical account of reason as pure system is characterized by arbitrary techniques of deduction, which Schelling elsewhere refers to as merely the conditioned understanding that characterizes logic. One. Friedrich Wilhelm Joseph Schelling, Leçons sur la méthode des études académiques, 1803. Lessons on the Methods of Study Academies, 1803. In Philosophies de l'Université l'idéalisme allemand et la question de l'université. Editor Luc Ferry, J.P. Pesseron, and Alain Renaud. Paris, Payot, 1979. Page 93, my translations. The German original is Vorlesungen über die Methode des akademischen Studiums. Editor Walter Erhard, Philosophische Bibliothek. As Schiller points out, the imposition of the moral state of pure reason can only proceed at the cost of the destruction of the pre-existing, unemancipated condition of humanity, characterized by the interiority of natural sentiment, too. Oh. Friedrich Schiller, Letters on the Aesthetic Education of Man, translator E. M. Wilkinson and L. A. Willoughby, Oxford, Clarendon Press, 1967. Who put this in there? Bet it was Chaparro. As Schiller points out, the imposition of the moral state of pure reason can only proceed at the cost of the destruction of the pre-existing, unemancipated condition of humanity, characterized by the interiority of natural sentiment. Footnote 2. Boom. The antinomy of nature and the antinomy of nature and reason in Kant leaves the subject no choice. To arrive at reason is to destroy nature. To reach maturity is to forget childhood absolutely. That's ridiculous. This produces the famous hermeneutic circle in which the rational state is supposed to educate humanity, but only an educated humanity can found that state. This produces the famous hermeneutic circle in which the rational state is supposed to educate humanity, but only an educated humanity can found that state. The problem of institutionalization in Kant's work is phrased by Schiller as the difficulty of how one is to move from the state of nature to the state of reason without destroying nature. The answer, briefly, is through culture as a process of aesthetic education. Culture that is allows us to move from nature to reason without destroying nature. Thus, art removes chance from nature to allow morality, while at the same time, art does not free reason entirely from nature. This Bildung is a process of the development of moral character that situates beauty as an intermediate step between the chaos of nature and the strict and arbitrary structures of pure reason. Art stands then between the purely passive determination of reason by nature, man as beast, and the utterly active determination of nature by reason, man as machine. Man as machine, man as machine. Can a beast be a machine? That's crazy. It is important to understand, however, that the process of aesthetic education is not conceived by Schiller as a matter of merely looking at pictures. It is a fundamentally historical process. Reason is given organic life through historical study. Humanity does not achieve the moral state by rejecting nature, but by reinterpreting nature as a historical process. Thus, reason must replace belief. The state must replace the church. However, an intermediate institution is also required. This intermediate institution must be able to embody the process of culture by which the natural character of mankind is to be prepared for the state of reason. Schleiermacher, in developing hermeneutics as a way of reworking tradition in order to raise the work of nature to the level of reason, identifies this intermediary institution as the university. 3. Friedrich Schleiermacher, Pensée des circonstances sur les universités de conception allemand in Philosophies de l'université, my translations. The reform of institutions, Schleiermacher insists, cannot simply abolish tradition and turn the arbitrary application of reason in place of natural formation such as the medieval university. Tradition cannot be abandoned, but must be worked through in order for its true meaning to be understood. What is rational in tradition, then, is not only isolated and affirmed, but also given organic life in that it is preserved rather than simply imposed upon a void. Thus, for example, through the hermeneutic process, the nation will come to embody an ethnicity that is raised to rational self-consciousness. Thus, for example, through the hermeneutic process, the nation will come to embody an ethnicity that is raised to rational self-consciousness. This differs significantly from a belief that Previously existing social forms will be replaced by those deduced on the basis of the abstract idea of humanity. What this means in more practical terms is that the destruction of the French Revolution, remember Mirabeau's dictum, pour tout reconstruire, il fallait tout démolir. Il fallait tout démolir. Pour tout reconstruire, il fallait tout démolir. For everything you reconstruct, it will become deconstructed, maybe. Remember Mirabeau's dictum, pour tout reconstruire, il fallait tout démolir, will not have been necessary for the people to reach self-consciousness and become self-determining. 4. Mirabeau in Une éducation pour la démocratie, texte et projet de l'époque révolutionnaire, editor B. Basco, Paris, Garnier, 1982, page 71, my translation. Hence, the German model offers considerable reassurance to state power. The university exists to produce reason without revolution. Oh, snap. See? That's a tough read. The university, it feels right. The university exists to produce reason without revolution, without destruction. God damn. Sickest burn. The process of hermeneutic reworking is called culture, and it has a double articulation. On the one hand, culture names an identity. It is the unity of all knowledges that are the object of study. It is the object of Wissenschaft, scientific philosophical study. 5. We enter a problem of translation here. As Samuel Weber notes in Institution and Interpretation, Wissenschaft is translated in French as science, which stands over and against savoir or connaissance, the forms for knowledges. In English, science names the ensemble of knowledges in the hard sciences rather than the unifying principle of all knowledge seeking. To translate Wissenschaft as the substantive learning would be attractive if it did not raise massive confusion with the process of learning represented by Bildung, which also could be translated by the participle learning. Okay, I'm going to stop there for a second and go meet Judah for lunch. And we'll resume this. Can it be resumed? This one will be in at least 2 parts. Okay, see you soon.